Mitch Thrower. We're back at Triathlete TV. We're at our open-air rooftop studio, and it's a pleasure to have Billy Gerber, film producer, good friend, joining us today. Billy is a Ironman triathlete, has been involved in the sport of triathlon for quite some time, and Billy, welcome.
Thank
Good
you.
to have you here.
Good to be here.
So what are some of the movies, recent movies, maybe historical movies that you've produced, been involved in, and then maybe a story from one of those where you were actually training on set? I have one particular in mind.
Right. Well, probably the biggest one I worked on for the triathlete crowd's Beer Fest.
Beer Fest.
Yeah,
yes, that's a popular movie.
Yeah,
Triathletes.
exactly. Yeah, that would be good. But I produced The Dukes of Hazzard. I produced a French film called Very Long Engagement. I'm one of the producers on a movie called What a Girl Wants. I just produced a movie with Clint Eastwood and his partner Rob Lorenz called Gran Torino, which we shot in Detroit. We just wrapped last week before I came down here to train with Mitch and take my girls to the horse show. And that's a great movie. It's a dramedy. It's about an older guy who kind of doesn't really like people too much and learns to get along. You know, after he kicks some ass. Yeah,
After he kicks some ass.
Call it Gran
Clint
Torino.
Eastwood film should do, right?
Clint Eastwood, he's starring and directing. That comes out in December. Before I was a producer, I was a movie executive at Warner Brothers. I ran production there for a couple of years and worked on a lot of great movies there, from L.A. Confidential to Heat to Unforgiven to Three Kings to Harry Potter. You know, many
Harry Potter.
movies. Yeah, I was there for 12 years. So
amazing.
yeah,
that's really amazing. And I remember one story when you were trying to get someone to send a bike for a scene to be in the movie, because you've always been kind of the Hollywood producer that's been very friendly to the sport of triathlon. And so for that, you know,
we did have a great product placement opportunity.
Yeah.
But your friends from the unnamed company
couldn't get the bike
didn't get
to
it
the movie
together.
set in time
We ended
to
up-
have it in the movie.
Exactly. But I remember I was flying to South America with Michael Douglas before we shot the movie. I was consulting to the old AOL. So I flew him down to Sao Paulo for a opening of the AOL company down there. Michael's, he was very involved with the internet, and we helped him establish his charity online and stuff like that. And we were talking about friends of ours who have, gotten a little too into, partying a little bit, have substance problems. And I said to him, I don't understand that kind of addiction. I don't understand that kind of personality. And he's like, well, we're on a Gulf Stream flying to Sao Paulo, and you just did yoga for an hour in the aisle here. You don't think that's a little addiction? I said, I guess that's my addiction.
Right. Triathlon is an addiction, a healthy addiction.
Yeah.
And there's some certain personalities that gravitate to triathlon.
Yeah, we try to keep it healthy. I know a lot of friends of yours who might be considered having an unhealthy addiction to it, but it does beat the other things for sure.
How did you hear about the sport of triathlon? What was your first experience?
I saw it on television like a lot of people, watching, it wasn't an Ironman, it was some other race, and it just clicked with me, the idea of doing the three things and not just overdoing one at a time training-wise. And at that point I was mostly mountain biking, a little swimming, a little running, but the idea, a lot of mountain biking, but the idea of kind of putting it together and under the umbrella of an endurance sport was really appealing to me.
Do you remember your first triathlon?
I remember it very well. My first race was the Malibu Sprint. It was a little longer run in those days. It was a 5-mile run. Same swim, same bike, up to Leo Carrillo Beach and back. And I trained with Greg Isaacs for it, who's a good friend of mine, a guy from South Africa, kind of a celebrity trainer. And he got me through it. I hadn't done a lot of ocean swimming. And kind of halfway through it, I was kind of panicking, like all of a sudden I'm out in the middle of the ocean, and got on the bike, and then I felt much better. And then the run was, it's a beautiful run across Windward Beach, and it was a great feeling of accomplishment to finish it. And then I started hearing about longer races. I really didn't know much about Ironman then. And for some unknown reason, my second race was a half Ironman.
You went from
I went from a sprint. I just didn't know any better, and there was another race in Ventura County, and Greg and I decided to do it. Matter of fact, he crashed. He was at the head of the pack on the bike leg, and he went down and broke his shoulder. I had no idea because I was probably a good half an hour behind him at that point, and I finished the race. And my then fiance had taken him to the hospital, and but it was a beautiful run. It was a great race.
And now, did you remember the specific moment when you crossed the finish line
Of the first
of the half Ironman? How did your body feel?
I felt pretty good. I always feel good afterwards. I always feel good because I get such an adrenaline rush out of it. Especially Ironman. It took me a week to even feel any pain. It came, but it took a long time to catch up with me because I was so just fired up about the whole thing.
That's funny. And which Ironman was this? This
California.
Ironman California.
The last California Ironman.
The last time they ran it as a full Ironman.
Yep.
And when you were out there on the course, your family came to watch?
My pregnant wife and my 2 girls, and it was great. Oceanside was great. I don't know if you remember, but you had introduced me to Paula Newby-Fraser, and you and I went and did the course with her a couple of weeks before the race.
I remember
and
that was kind of a miserable...
We were begging for them to stop, but it was a great experience. The swim was fantastic, and it was interesting because you had told me, unlike Hawaii where it gets worse, the swim's a pleasure and then the bike's okay and the run's hell. This was the opposite order where the swim was pretty rough, but I didn't know any better. I just thought just keep swimming, and the bike was kind of hard because there were a lot of hills in Camp Pendleton, and it's one of the
twice.
You did that loop twice. It was apparently it's one of the hillier Ironman courses, and then the run was pretty flat. It was out and back. Unfortunately, it was out and back twice.
Right.
Which is never fun as you pass your hotel 4 times, but it was.
Think about stopping at the hotel.
We got through it.
That's fantastic. Now, you're quite a family man. You've got 3 girls. You've got a wife. So take us through like a day in the life of film producer Billy Gerber, family man, triathlete.
You just prioritize, in my case, my family comes first if I'm home. Sometimes I'm on location and I can just be selfish and do what I have to do. But if I'm home, the first thing I think about is what do I need to do for the 4 of them? Am I driving somebody to school? Am I helping with something? Blah, blah, blah. So it's just an organic thing. I look at my day, okay, and every day most every day I figure out, okay, when am I going to get my workout in? It's going to be the morning or the afternoon, or I have time for 2. My wife's very understanding about it. If I come home from work at 5 o'clock and I want to take a 45-minute run or jump on the bike like we've done a million times, just head up one of the canyons and do a loop for an hour, back in time.
She's totally cool with it.
Totally cool. And every project requires a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings, a lot of reading, a lot of improving, and just making sure that everybody does what they said they were going to do, because really at the end of the day, most of the people, whether it's the actor or the director or the studio, have a lot of things going on. You only have the one you're trying to get them to do, so you're constantly bringing focus. When you're hiring an actor for a movie, you think once they say okay, you're done, but in fact you're not. You still have to make their deal, which means you have to get their lawyer to talk to your lawyer and get the business affairs associate at the studio to make a deal with the agent, and there's all these little pieces that you have to connect the dots on before you're actually really done.
Right.
And it takes a long time between yes and firming everything up.
And then when you wrap a film, that's when you're finished filming, done, everything's done. You feel
Kind
better.
of.
There's still more on the marketing.
You gotta go preview the movie, and you have to, take it before a test audience. Before you're promoting it, you're just finding out, can you tweak it? Do you need to shoot another scene? Are people understanding the story? Do you find out something in the preview process that you really should have thought about before, and you need to write some new material, or maybe the movie needs a joke here, it needs a scary ending or whatever. It's different every time. It's a great business. That's what's fun about it, is every one is a handmade product, and they're all different. They all have a million different things going on, and it's it really is a great job when you are making the movies. When you're not making the movies, it's one of the kind of more frustrating. I won't say tough
frustrating,
because you're not in the mind, but it's frustrating and it's confusing a lot of the time because you're just trying to enforce your will on a lot of people who don't really care what you want.
Right.
So it's challenging from that point of view. But when it's happening, it's very magical, as you know, when you're filming things and you're listening to the director yell action and you're watching it happen. It's like alchemy, you know. It's really amazing.
You have your eyes set on Hawaii to maybe do it someday?
I have my eyes set on a lot of them. I have my eyes set on a lot. I'd love to do Canada. You know,
Canada,
I'd love to do
tomorrow.
I guess I'm not going to make it.
Not gonna make it.
Yeah. I'd like
the
to,
Gulf Stream is not around.
mine.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to do New Zealand.
Ironman New Zealand.
Yeah, I think that would be amazing. Or Australia, but I think New Zealand looks really primitive and great. Yeah.
Really spectacular.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at really busy folks that are out there doing the sport of triathlon, that have a family, that have a very intense job with, you know, lots of egos, lots of pressure, because you're under a lot of pressure I mean, I've seen different situations where you're like orchestrating chaos. And when you have that and then put triathlon, what advice would you give to sort of the new triathletes, the people that are thinking about getting involved in the sport, they have maybe heard about it, but they have their family and they, you know, feel pulled in 100 directions. Does it enhance your life? How does it enhance your life?
Well, I mean, certainly being fit enhances your life because you just have you know, an attitude that you can get stuff done. You know, if you can do an Ironman, you feel fairly confident that most challenges that get thrown in front of you, you're going to be able to prevail because, you know, not your friends, but most people, when they ask you if you've done an Ironman and you tell them you have, they can't believe it, you know, that in one day you did all that, you know?
Right. And it's an amazing accomplishment.
It is, and I'm proud to say it. And I think it was John Duke that said, you know, it's 2.4 miles of swimming, 112 miles of biking, 26.2 miles of running, and a lifetime of bragging rights.
Right.
And, you know, and it's true. You know, it's like you can't take that away from somebody who's completed it, you know, and it's a big accomplishment. But, you know, I think that people can train very efficiently, too. You know, I mean, the whole idea that Paula and, you know, Rock and those guys, you know, teach is emphasizing your key workouts and not just, you know, loading junk miles on for the sake of it, just because, you know, you feel, oh my God, if I don't do 5 hours on the bike today, I'm going to, you know, gain 2 ounces and not be as strong. You know, Paula said it's a lot better to go in undertrained than overtrained, and I think that's true. And I think that, you know, she wrote a column for Triathlete about, you know, a 13-hour Ironman in 13 weeks. You know, training 13 hours a week, and it's absolutely doable. And, you know, if you have kids, I mean, there are times, you know, when I would take my kids to you know, horseback riding lesson or something, and I would just put on my running shoes and just, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I'll be back. You know, I get it done. You know, they got what they needed, I got what I needed, and, you know, and it works out that way. But I mean, you can be efficient. You have to learn how to
mix things together.
You have to mix things together. Yeah, you just have to be efficient. You have to multitask. You have to get it done. And, you know, I mean, look at Silicon Valley. They have all those groups of guys and girls that, you know, they run during lunch, or they have a biking group that goes out, and, you know, it's part of their culture working wise. I mean, my kids spent a lot of time in car seats by a treadmill.
They did.
Watching Barney. A lot of time.
Now,
they liked it. They started to like the sound of the treadmill.
It could go to sleep with the treadmill.
Yeah.
How do you explain to maybe your littlest one, Georgie?
Yeah.
How do you explain to her why you're doing what you're doing? So if you can maybe imagine you're explaining to the children of the people that are watching this video why Daddy does triathlon.
It's the same reason Tinley said to his kids why he, you know, Sunday afternoon just goes out for a 5-mile run, you know. He said, because it feels good.
Because it feels good.
Yeah, it feels good, and it makes me happy, and it's a teachable thing, you know. It's like a teachable moment, you know. As when you're raising kids, you always look for that thing that they ask you a question about that you can explain to them in a way that might be memorable. And you know, I want them to know that taking care of yourself is very important, and that having goals, physical goals, is very important. I mean, my 2 girls, my older girls, are equestrians, and they compete regularly, and, you know, a lot of people say, you know, aren't you afraid, and this and that, and I go, yeah, I'm afraid every time they get on a horse, but the fact of the matter is, I get on a bike, I go up PCH. I don't want them to live in fear. I want them to feel like they can be outdoors, have a relationship with an animal, do something athletic and love it, and be competitive and have great sportsmanship, and which they do. And I think they learn a lot of great lessons from it. I mean, that's their thing. So, you know, they see the parallels between what they like to do and what I like to do.
Right. And the tagline of Ironman is anything is possible. And
anything is possible.
Watching you cross the finish line at Ironman California and thinking that, you know, it really is possible.
But, you know, they see when we're down here in San Diego County, and, you know, there's a 2 or 3 hour, you know, it's 2 or 3 hours of downtime between their things, and all of a sudden Uncle Mitch shows up and we get on the mountain bikes and we disappear for 2 hours. They're like, you know, we're taking care of business. You know, we're there watching them when they're competing, but when they're just running around with their girlfriends and doing what they want to do, we go, all right, time to train. Time to train. You know.
Exactly. Do you have someone who in the sport has inspired you, that you've worked with, or either as a coach or maybe just read about or so forth? Like, has there been someone in the sport of triathlon that's inspired you by their story?
There are many people who've inspired me. There are people who are busier than I am and have more kids than I do and have, you know, more responsibility and somehow manage to get up earlier and train more than I do, you know, which blows my mind. There's you, and not just because this is your show, but the fact is that you taught me to make it fun, you know, that you're not out there, you know, you're racing against yourself. It doesn't mean you can't say hello, you can't help somebody. I mean, you know, I remember doing a race one time in Big Rock where some guy was just desperate for a cartridge, and I went right by him, and then I thought, okay, you know, and I turned around, I threw him a cartridge. Then, of course, half a mile later, I got a flat. Nobody threw me a cartridge, but I thought I did the right thing. You know, I thought I did the right thing, and I think, you know, and I was talking to you about Tinley's article the other day about the swim and how hectic it is, and where's the aloha when it comes to the swim and Ironman and stuff like that.
Crazy,
yeah,
isn't it?
It's nutty, and you know, I don't enjoy that, and you know, I don't understand the violence. You know, I was always surprised when somebody, you know, is trying to swim over me or something. I'm like, hey, we're all trying to do the same thing here, you know.
It is shocking,
but
right?
yeah, but you know, and I found Paula Newby Fraser very inspirational, because she really, you know, I would be, you know, at times, you know, I had their training program, and she was very nice. She would email me about things and stuff, and you know, she kept saying, what'd you do this week? Did I do this? She said, you're going to be fine. You'll finish. I'd say, well, if I finish. She said, you're going to finish. Don't worry about it. You'll get through it. And I did, and I did better than I had hoped to, than I trained to do, and it was a great experience. And, you know, and I just glad I did. I look forward to doing it again. You know, I'm going to do New York Marathon in November.
New York Marathon.
Yeah. And
in fact, you just got back from a long run.
Just got back from a long run.
2 hours down to Mission Beach, Ocean Beach, and back.
I just ran where you told me to. I don't know what they call it, but I
south.
saw a pier, I touched it, and I turned around. You know? I ran
good.
South.
You ran south.
I saw a lot of mariachi bands. I don't know what that means, but it was south.
Border Patrol.
There was some border patrol.
Some
people
border patrol.
running. I don't know why. I thought maybe, you know, there was something going on.
We're pretty close to Mexico.
Yeah.
Pretty close to Mexico. So, Billy, it has been so great to have you on the show. Do you have any words of encouragement for maybe your family?
My family?
Your family, just saying, hey guys, this is me, I'm a triathlete.
Hi guys, this is me. You are well aware that I am a triathlete, and I'm well aware of your particular passions as well.
Great. Billy, thanks so much for sharing. It's really great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.